My name is Kathy, and I am 32 years old. I've been married to a company employee for 3 years. But we don't have children yet. We live in an apartment together. And we only meet each other's parents during Easter and Christmas holidays. Since my husband's family lives far away, we can only visit them during those times. But it's always lively with many relatives gathering. My in-laws are very friendly people and treat me like their real daughter. When we have family gatherings, they always ask me to help out. And I enjoy working with them without feeling any ill will. However, my husband has a sister named Mandy, who is quite difficult. She doesn't help out at all. While preparing for the party with me, my mother-in-law would talk with a grimace. My own daughter is harder to talk to, so I end up asking you for help all the time. Even my mother-in-law feels uncomfortable openly talking to Mandy. Mandy graduated from a prestigious school and was accepted into a top university. Now, she is planning to study abroad. My father-in-law brags about her. But my mother-in-law is concerned about her personality. Mandy has always been excellent in everything since she was young. And she looks down on her brother, my husband. During a family gathering, someone complimented both siblings on attending university. It's amazing that both siblings here went to university. Mandy glared at the relative and responded unhappily. Don't compare my university with the third-rate one my brother graduated from. Graduating from such a university is no different than just finishing high school. The room went silent after Mandy's words. But my husband, trying to lighten the mood, started talking. I may have graduated from a third-rate university. But I'm living a happy life with a beautiful wife like Kathy, so I'm satisfied. Thanks to my husband's joking, everyone smiled again, but Mandy did not seem amused. Her anger turned towards me, the wife praised as beautiful. Kathy, which university did you graduate from? Knowing that I only graduated from high school, Mandy asked this question on purpose. I'm not ashamed of being a high school graduate, so I answered honestly. You know, I only graduated from high school. Mandy dramatically feigned surprise and exclaimed, I'm sorry. Since my brother always brags about you, I assumed you were a college graduate. There are still high school graduates around these days? She said this and left. But since there were other high school graduates among the relatives, the atmosphere became heavy again. My husband and mother-in-law had no choice but to apologize to everyone. After graduating from university, Mandy was set to go to graduate school and then study abroad. Before she left, we gathered at my in-laws' house to see her off. And she took the opportunity to make a snide remark as usual. I suppose a high school graduate like you wouldn't know. But studying abroad is much harder than just traveling. My husband was about to retort, but I stopped him and replied with a smile. Right, it's dangerous overseas, and the food is different too, so be careful. I meant to be kind, but Mandy suddenly got angry. Don't act like you know anything about studying abroad when you've never been. The relatives gathered were displeased again. But Mandy left for her studies abroad without any concern. Her father, burdened with the cost of her study abroad, laughed tiredly after she left. I hope she gets a good job after a year abroad and earns a lot of money. I can't even keep track of how much money I've spent on her. My husband laughed along with his father. She'll be back in the US in the fall to try out internships at various companies, right? She was bragging about applying to foreign companies. My mother-in-law also joined the conversation, worried about Mandy's job prospects. As for me, I felt relieved and unrelated, and after the relatives left, I cleaned up. It was more enjoyable to visit my in-laws without the high-achieving Mandy. I cooked with my mother-in-law and listened to stories about my husband's childhood from my father-in-law. The atmosphere was truly better without Mandy. It had been 6 months since Mandy went to study abroad, and I was just starting to forget about her. Next week, Mandy will be returning to the US and will start working as an intern. She will work at one company for a month, my dad told me. Just hearing about Mandy made me feel uncomfortable, so I responded to my husband. It has nothing to do with me, right? I don't mean to be harsh, but I really don't want to meet Mandy. My husband's expression suddenly turned serious. I don't want to see her either. Dad is in debt due to her, and I can't stand her constantly bragging about her education. It seemed like my husband was trying to consider my feelings when he spoke negatively about Mandy. Anyway, we had agreed not to visit his parents' home while Mandy was around. But unexpectedly, I would meet her sooner than I thought. The next day, when I arrived at work, the HR department reported that a student would be joining us for an internship. I initially thought we were hosting a foreign student studying in the US, but it turned out to be a student currently studying abroad. When I was handed the list of incoming interns, I froze upon seeing the name. It was Mandy. Our company is involved in recruiting foreign workers for American companies. This includes lawyers, interpreters, and sometimes executive managers. And we also introduce American nationals to companies overseas. Mandy was studying economics at university and graduate school, so she might be an expert in that field. Our company employs people who are fluent in foreign languages and knowledgeable about laws in the US and abroad. I wasn't initially concerned about the internship since it was arranged by HR. But knowing Mandy was coming made me uneasy. I didn't think she would join our company permanently, and I wondered why she would intern at a non-major corporation. I casually asked the HR staff about the internship. It's unusual for our company to have an internship, isn't it? The staff member replied with a troubled look. Yes, it is. It seems like the government wants to promote internships aggressively, and they pushed it on us. Given this, I thought it might just be a coincidence of names, with someone bragging about their education, since everything was already communicated to the other party. And it was just an internship, we decided to proceed with the acceptance. I was unsure whether to tell my husband that Mandy would be interning at our company, but I decided to keep quiet for now. There was a chance it was someone with the same name, and I could discuss it after confirming it was indeed Mandy. About a month later, on the day the intern was supposed to arrive, I came to the office early as usual and started cleaning inside. Our company has many foreign employees, and everyone is quite business-minded. No one comes before work hours to clean the office. I don't force anyone else to do so, so I usually wipe down desks and mop the floors myself. Then, a woman arrived and greeted me grumpily. Good morning. I am Mandy, and I will be under your care from today. Nice to meet you. She seemed nervous, maybe because it was her first day. Or perhaps she was disappointed it wasn't a major company. But she greeted me reluctantly. I greeted her back without thinking. Good morning. When Mandy and I looked at each other, we stared for a moment. But she started speaking condescendingly as usual. Kathy, what are you doing? Of course, a high school graduate like you would be a janitor, right? Your outfit really suits you. Her nervous expression quickly turned into a smirk, and she was back to her cheeky self. I was dressed in work clothes and wearing a white headscarf, looking like a typical cleaning lady. I resumed cleaning and spoke to her with a smile. You have your internship starting today, right? It might be confusing since it's all new to you, but good luck. Hearing this, Mandy laughed derisively. What are you, a janitor, acting all high and mighty for? Hurry up and finish cleaning, then get out. As other employees began to arrive, Mandy's expression turned nervous again. After finishing the cleaning, I went to the back room to change. Our company has a small morning assembly at the start of the workday. And I walked into the office where all the employees, including a very nervous Mandy, were lined up. As I entered, everyone greeted me. Seeing me, Mandy glared and said, "Don't let the janitor, who is an outsider, in here." This remark shocked all the employees, and they corrected her. What are you saying to the president? That's rude, isn't it? Mandy still didn't understand when they said I was the president. And she yelled at me again. Get out of here, high school graduate janitor. The HR person next to her hurriedly tried to quiet her down. I'm the president of this company. I was in work clothes earlier, so I probably looked like a real janitor to you, huh? Still incredulous, Mandy turned to the HR person for confirmation. I heard this company was a foreign-funded enterprise. Why would someone like her be the president? At first surprised to learn Mandy was my sister-in-law, the HR staff let me explain. Indeed, it's foreign-funded, but I'm the president of the U.S. branch. I use my maiden name at work, so maybe you didn't realize? After graduating high school, I moved to Spain. In my early 20s, I started working with the founder of this company, helping introduce American people to Spanish companies. The business was successful, and when it was decided to expand to the U.S. 5 years ago, I returned and took up the position of president of the U.S. branch. Mandy seemed unconvinced even after my explanation. But after the morning meeting, I called her and the HR staff for a talk. Don't give her special treatment just because she's my sister-in-law. Regardless of whether she works here permanently, she needs to understand how tough working here can be. The HR staff responded with a smile, but Mandy was clearly unsettled. It seemed humiliating for her to be ordered around by me, whom she always looked down upon. She looked like she might cry, staring at the ground. I left the handling of Mandy's situation to the HR staff and didn't get involved. At the end of the day, I asked the HR staff about her behavior. How was my sister-in-law today? The staff grimaced. She's high pride and difficult to work with, considering she can't do much. I've only seen her for 1 day, but I'd say she shouldn't be hired here. It seemed her language skills were lacking despite studying abroad. And the biggest issue was her lack of communication skills. With her attitude of not listening to others, she would struggle anywhere. That evening, I was planning to tell my husband that Mandy had come to intern at my company. However, he started talking first. Did Mandy intern at your company? Dad called, begging to let her stay on as an employee. While I was taken aback, my husband continued. She's been interviewing at major companies, but keeps getting rejected at the documents screening stage. In your company, you have an advantage if you can speak Spanish, right? My husband wasn't very aware of the specifics of my company, so I enlightened him. Spanish is essential, but it seems Mandy isn't that proficient. Also, today she mistook me for a janitor and ridiculed me as a high school graduate in front of all the employees. I laughed. Hearing this, my husband was stunned, realizing that employment at my company would be difficult for her. After a week at my company observing the workflow, Mandy stopped coming the following week without any notice. The HR staff tried to contact her multiple times, but her phone seemed to be turned off. They asked me to contact her family, but I firmly refused. A person who skips work without notice doesn't qualify as a professional. Please inform the head office that her internship is terminated. I'll check on her well-being personally. When I called her home, my mother-in-law told me that Mandy was locked in her room. Being bossed around by others had been a humiliation she had never experienced. Yet, she wasn't ready to abandon her pride and arrogant attitude either. Back home, my husband, possibly asked by his father, pleaded with me. Mandy has locked herself up at home. Can you do something? Even if asked, I was at a loss. His father wanted me to introduce her to a different foreign-funded company, where she could be employed. While her education might attract some companies, Mandy herself was intent on a major corporation, making it difficult. My husband understood this and said resignedly, "As much as Dad is eager, it's up to Mandy to decide." Can't help it. Mandy quit studying abroad and returned to her parents' house, becoming a full recluse, hiding even from her parents. When my husband and I were called to her parents' house, Mandy stayed locked up. And yet, her father asked me again to find her a job. Believing it best to confirm with her directly, I tried at her room door. If it's not a major company, I can introduce you to companies likely to hire you. As expected, Mandy yelled back, "I won't rely on a high school graduate." Since talking to her only made her angry, I decided not to involve myself with Mandy anymore. My husband also stopped bringing up her situation, and we didn't even call out to her when visiting her parents' home. It was a waste, considering her education up to graduate school and further study abroad. Her parents were concerned about Mandy, but once they learned I was pregnant, they became preoccupied with the upcoming grandchild. I don't want my child to be an arrogant adult with no abilities. Seeing Mandy's current state makes me realize that academic credentials really don't matter as much.